Howdy.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Feeling strong, feeling good.
Hey, hey, hey.
I'm Greg. This is Jordan, the guy you were talking to.
Hey. How's it
How
going,
are you?
Blag?
Feeling good, feeling strong.
Sweet. That's always important. How was the New Year's show?
Oh, it was pretty hilarious. It was kind of old school dwarves. There was some senseless violence and I don't know, Pussy Riot canceled out. That was weird. And
What?
yeah, it was strange. So the whole thing had a very old school dwarves quality about it.
Well, that's cool. That sucks that Pussy Riot bailed. Did they offer an explanation?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really pay attention.
Fair. Ah, there he is. Hey, Vadge, can you hear us? Can we hear you? I can see him. Can't hear him.
That must be Vadge because he's talking, but nothing smart is coming out.
Always on mute. On mute in real life and on
Vadge
Zoom.
more.
Well, what we could do is we could just start talking about Sugarfix, and then if Vadge comes in midway, then we could just have him come in midway.
Yes, that would be great. So, what is it about Sugarfix that calls you today?
Well, what is it about? There's a lot of stuff surrounding Sugarfix, and I mean, at its core, it's a phenomenal record from a phenomenal band, the legendary Dwarves, one of the best punk bands ever. Am I right to say this?
Bless you, sir. I agree with you.
I thought you might. I thought you might.
Sugarfix is kind of an off album for me. It was never one of my favorites
What
due
don't
to
you like about it?
due to a number of factors. Well, first, I want to hear what you like about it. That's more important to me. What's positive about Sugarfix you're pushing today? Is that the reissue there?
It is the reissue. This is the one that
Yeah,
came
the
out
reissue
last
looks
year.
better than the original. The original, they kind of fucked up the printing of it.
It looks nice. I like the sleeve
This looks the
inside too,
way,
and everything. The
yeah,
back
this
all
looks
looks
the way
really
it's
good.
supposed to.
Yeah, no, I dig this record a lot. I mean, I think that this record has a very varied soundscape across the whole thing. I think that a lot of your records do, but I think that in the early days leading up, like definitely it's from like Dwarves. Well, I guess like Dwarves are young and good looking is kind of like the beginning of the new era. Is that safe to say of the Dwarves? And this
Yeah,
kind of almost feels like the ending of a certain chapter.
yes, that's exactly right. I think that's why, and also like this record was just doomed in a lot of different ways. Like the label that had it at the time was severing their relationship with their producer and sort of moving to major distribution. But they didn't take our record with them, but they were fighting with the old producers, or with the old distributors, so they didn't take that either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it was just a disaster from every angle.
Of course. I mean, like, that's, I think, another reason why we wanted to talk about this record because it is, the record that effectively changed course for you guys. I mean, I feel like I read Vadge's book and everything, and I felt like, you guys weren't necessarily in it for the long haul with Sub Pop. It was kind of like, and correct me if I'm wrong anywhere here, but kind of like you utilizing Sub Pop, but knowing that you guys, kind of had your own thing going, but kind of like using them to
Well,
maybe.
it would have been nice to get some support or some money or something
Mhm.
out of Sub Pop. That would have been great.
Right.
But that
Hey,
did.
there we
Oh,
go.
it's working.
Is that Vag Moore?
The Dark Lord had to use some special black magic to get on.
Wow. All right.
But hey,
You're
Black Magic,
It's
it worked.
Vag, I'm honored to have you
It's
here.
wonderful. It's wonderful being old. I feel like my mom when I first introduced the VCR to her.
Hey.
You do feel somewhat like your mom. I'll admit.
I
I'll
do.
admit that.
And because haven't you? You fucked my mom.
Oh my
Son of
goodness.
a bitch.
Vag
But anyway,
Moore.
since I'm back, since I'm here now, I don't know why the fuck we're talking about a record that's over 30 years old.
Right. We shouldn't even talk about women that are over.
Wait,
30.
no, when the Dwarves have a perfectly great new album called Concept Album. But, however, we're not here to plug our own shit. We're here to talk about a record that came out over 30 years ago. We're not going to talk about our new records or our new books, which can be found on Amazon or any of my Facebook or Instagram pages with links.
Vadge, there is no life.
We're not going to do anything like that.
Got double promo going on right here.
Wow.
There we go, baby.
Okay, I'm going to go on record here and say Vadge was a little too polite in these books. He could have gotten a lot nastier.
Oh, hell yeah.
If he wanted to.
Maybe for the third volume.
I commend you for holding back.
The main reason is I don't have an attorney at this point. There's a lot of people that might recognize themselves in there. You got to be careful nowadays. I just did their first and last initials, so you know. Maybe. Allegedly. Allegedly.
Well, I love the books. I haven't read My Life After the Dwarves, but I did read My Life with the Dwarves, and that's
My Life After the Dwarves is even more fucked up than the first one.
I can't wait because that first installment was literally like I could not put it down. I was like reading this on public transit, and I was like looking around. It's like, does anybody realize what I'm reading right now? It was fantastic.
Well, one thing I want to emphasize is, you know, this is a trilogy of my life, but the hub and the wheel is the Dwarves. So really, that was a seminal moment when Blag, he actually had to convince me to join the fucking band. I was playing these loser bands. Just
what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, but it was really the hub and the wheel of my life. So every single book is my life with the Dwarves, my life after the Dwarves, and now I'm about to write my life before the Dwarves. So I want to thank Blag for making this central part of my life so important, because obviously the trilogy of my life.
I couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, you're doing it without me right now.
Well, there's that. But
yeah,
I mean, it just, to me, Vadge Moore is the symbol of the Dwarves, and also the first successful human to toilet transplant is Vadge.
Well, that's true. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's true.
I would be interested to learn what that means.
Vadge Moore is the first successful human to toilet transplant.
Just think about it. It'll make your head explode.
It kind of is already. I'm thinking I'm thinking disgusting things right now.
Well, you know, that's because Vadge Moore's here.
The Dwarves are amazing. You know, 30 years making records for sexually deprived 16-year-old boys, and still making records for older men
30 years,
have nothing
40
to do.
years.
What
40 years.
Oh, good God.
Starting in 1983.
Where's my rocker? Where's my colostomy bag?
No, it's some geriatric shit.
Those 16-year-olds are now 56 years old and still sexually deprived.
Yes, or depraved, depending on who they are.
That's true. It could go either way, based on what I read in your book.
You see? There you go. All right, so what are we talking about? What have I missed?
Right. So we did talk a little bit about the concept album. It's a great album, of course. Love it.
I love Rock Set. I love Voodoo, of course, typecasting.
Vadge went into voodoo himself. He is a voodoo practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
I was for a short time, yes.
But he ran out of chickens to slaughter.
I kept eating them, and then, slaughtering them. I just figured they're better cooked.
In a way, is that not a sacrifice?
As a Thelemite, I prefer menstrual blood, really, over chicken blood.
Nice.
Wow. You can marinate the chicken in the menstrual blood and then kill two birds.
Oh, I never thought about that.
There you
go.
Is
there anything that's more fucking bitch than menstrual blood, Vadge?
It's delicious.
Come on. Are you serious? So you're quaffing the blood of your mate?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Just like any regular guy would do.
It's classy, I would sit by a fire, and have like a martini glass with just menstrual blood in it. It's classy,
and it's delicious.
Don't tempt him. He's serious, guys.
That's
All
right.
What is it about this record? Let's hear it.
Right. So we're talking about Sugarfix.
Keep doing this if you don't jump in.
We'll never get anything done. So Sugarfix, yes, we're talking about Sugarfix. It's been a while since it came out. Yes. But we were talking about how, there's a lot surrounding this album, and at its core, I think it's a really good album. But there's lots to talk about with this record. It was the last record for you guys on Sub Pop. It's a pretty big deal. People these days know Sub Pop is this gigantic, it's not sub anymore. It's just pop, right?
Pussy ass
I'm
business.
going to need to plug this thing in or it's going to run out. Hang on. Continue with Vadge Moore.
Okay.
Oh, see, old men in technology. Well, Blag can correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall we actually recorded this record in its entirety. We got a bunch of money from Sub Pop and recorded the record in its entirety, but we didn't like how it sounded. So somehow Blag got them to give us more money, and Blag, you'll have to correct me on this if I'm wrong. And then we went in somewhere, I think it might have been Seattle, to re-record it. So the record actually, I think there's a whole nother Sugarfix out there that is a completely different recording, but we'll wait for Blag to come back and confirm that.
Nice. Yeah, I think that was mentioned in your book that was like all those songs were written and stuff before Thank Heaven, but then for whatever reason came out later.
Yeah, but I mean, we actually went into the studio and recorded
the whole thing.
The whole thing. We might have even done it a couple of times. I remember we just weren't, we knew we wanted to do something different.
Vadge, you're correct, sir.
I am correct. So how many times did we record this fucking record?
So some of the bonus tracks that appear on that reissue that's behind him of Sugarfix, and also on Thank Heaven,
which I don't
have extra tracks that were recorded at Smart Studios there when we did Thank Heaven. So those are versions of Underworld and Lies and a song called Down by the River.
I love that song.
That were all sort of contemporaneous with doing Thank Heaven, but there wasn't room for those on the record. And maybe I hadn't done the vocal yet or something. Then, as Vadge points out, we went up to Seattle and at a place called Avast, we recorded with a guy named Stuart Hallerman, and we started Sugarfix. And then we just abandoned ship when I took it to LA to try to mix it. And the guy who was going to mix it said, fuck, man, let's just record this again. And so we went to Studio D in Sausalito, which I don't think is there anymore.
Right.
And we recorded Sugarfix with. So this was the first record that didn't have saltpeter, which is another thing that saddens and angers me about this record.
Although Danny Bland did a pretty good job.
Well,
better than Eric Generic.
I love Danny Bland. He is a great guy, but sandwiched in the Dwarves legacy between saltpeter on one side and Nick Oliveri on the other.
Yeah.
He does not emerge as a powerhouse, let's say.
No. Yeah, both of those are definitely powerhouses.
So there were things about Sugarfix that always maddened me, but they weren't anybody's fault. They were just things that came up. Everybody was quitting at that time. And, except Vadge Moore, he's stuck with it.
Hell yeah.
He wanted more sex, more drugs, more insanity.
Yeah, it really wasn't about the music for me. It was just about the getting laid and, getting peed on.
Yeah.
Getting peed on was very important.
So if you want to go kind of song by song,
we're going to do that. We're going to go song by song.
I don't have one in front of me, but anybody out there open this, and that was like a Hugh Cannot Be Named style riff, very signature kind of thing that he would do. And then I came up with the vocal melody and the lyrics.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say
and then that breakdown part where it breaks down to it's all right, which we've sort of done various ways. But so anybody out there is kind of a standard Dwarf song, like we'll still do that. And there was a video of it and stuff.
For sure, and it feels like it's a little longer than your average Dwarves track because it's got that breakdown towards the end and everything like that. Was that like a sort of interesting moment for you guys to be like, we're gonna make a 3-minute song instead of a 1-minute song?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of our our accommodation to grunge is Sugarfix, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It slows it down a little bit. It's a little more rock and roll. We made another record at this time with some other people but me and Saltpeter, called Penetration, and that was kind of a sleazy rock and roll thing.
That
There's
band was awesome.
Yeah, and there's elements of that start on Thank Heaven, and then they really expand on this, you know. And so you got songs like Saturday Night, which is just kind of Ramonesy, and then you got riff songs like Anybody Out There or Bad Reputation, which was very similar to Anybody Out There. So we didn't do it much live, and it hasn't really survived much because Anybody Out There kind of soaks it up, but that's the same kind of jam.
Weren't we doing Anybody Out There, like, even when we played that amazing Coconut Teaser show where all the violence happened? I could have sworn I saw a video
Yeah,
where we were actually kind of doing a rough version of that.
We played it the first time we played in Seattle with Guar in '89. So we had that song for a long time.
Jesus.
I think we had pretty much written everything that was going to be Dwarves by 1990 or something.
Right.
There were maybe a couple more that came along later, but
The only thing I like, it's been over the years my least favorite Dwarves record that I appear on. But just in the last couple of years, you know, I go on YouTube and I throw it on. I'm like, you know what, this is actually a damn good record. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
people
Smack
like
City, Smack City is fantastic, and
Smack
Bad
City is
Reputation.
Smack City. Yeah, that was kind of our song about Seattle, you know. So it mentions like going to the Comet, come home and vomit, and it has song titles like "Come as You Are" and "Touch Me, I'm Sick." And
Who can we be talking about?
it all kind of references the Seattle thing and says, "Yeah, you know, you're all on dope. Your girls are ugly, and the weather sucks."
Seattle Cattle.
Because we were kind of coming from a California point of view, although I'm from the Midwest, and you know, but Vadge is like a California guy. We were trying to have some fun with it, and all these bands were making money and getting paid and had chicks, and it was like, what are you crying about? But that was kind of the style then, was to do a lot of crying.
I remember the one thing, like my contention at the beginning when we did the record and for a few years after, I just didn't like. I know I always had bad gear because I was always wrecking it all the time. But you made me, I think we taped down my hi-hat with duct tape so I would quit raising it up because my equipment was so crappy, like the sound of the cymbal was just taking over all the microphones in the room. But it actually, back to it now, first of all, it kind of separates. I mean, I know I'm the drummer, so I'm going to pay attention to this sort of shit. But it kind of that record separates from all the others we've done because usually I'm riding that hi-hat up and down and all over the place, and it's just a constant shh. Right. But that record, it kind of tightens it up a little bit. So in the end, I think Blag was right to have me do that. But yeah, you literally had me like take the screw out, so it was slapped down, and then I think you duct taped all around the hi-hat. So there's no way there can be any of that hiss.
I didn't remember that. That sounds like some meatball recording technique.
Yeah. Genius. The Beatles used that technique, I believe.
Much like the Beatles. That's why we're always compared to them.
Yeah, we're always
of course
compared to the Beatles.
When you recorded this record, did you record each instrument separately, or did you record like as a band and then do like the vocals?
We recorded as a band, but then, you know, broke it down to just, okay, we got the drum part, and then we'd overdub bass on it, and then overdub guitar. I think that was how it went. This wasn't the classic lineup of the band. Like He Who was drifting away already by this point. Crash Landon was playing guitar, wasn't wonderful. We mentioned, you know, Marquis de Sade, Danny, you know, so the hulking brute of Dwarves music that I had grown accustomed to was just kind of flailing apart at this point. But I had some good songs. You know, so we had Lies, you know, it was kind of a one chord. You know, there are a few of these Dwarf songs where they were like one, you know, Lies are just basically E over and over again. You know, Underworld is basically just a riff in E over and over again.
Great songs.
Down by the river.
Bad Reputation.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and we were playing around with what you could do with one chord, you know, and there are cool things you can do, you know.
Oh yeah.
Totally. Well, let's continue going track by track here. So like with anybody out there, I thought, you know, lyrically it's an interesting song, especially coming from the Dwarves, because it does feel like, you know, you've got some lines in there like, you know, I'm so horny and stuff like that, which falls in line with like kind of lyrical themes that we've heard before from the Dwarves, but like it is also kind of this sense of longing for connectivity with someone, you know, that's maybe beyond
I'm
fucking
so
somebody.
lonely was not really a Dwarves type line till then. It kind of expanded that. It was same with like Over You, like more
I
and
think
more.
with that line, Blag was getting us in touch with his feminine side. I think is what he was doing.
Oh, this is the seedlings of Nina.
He couldn't do it very long with me around, because then I'd try to get in touch with his feminine side.
There was somebody out there.
Yeah, so anybody out there was a little bit of a departure, and then it goes into Evil Primeval, which was kind of riding on a Bo Diddley, like dun 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 dun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of a weird song. I don't think we ever really did that live. Then it goes into Bad Reputation, which, like I said, is a lot like Anybody Out There, you know. And then
and it's based on a true story.
Bad Reputation is based on a true story. I can't imagine why.
Well, going to Richmond, right? We sing about going to Richmond, and we got in a fight there. It was some guys were mad at us from a previous show, and we had sort of forgotten about it, and they like coordinated with the venue, and they like turned the lights off at a specific time. It came after us on stage, but we were standing up there with like instruments and shit. We just started swinging on people, and I
hit a guy right in the head with my closed hi-hat. It was awesome.
See, I was right to tape it shut. It made a better weapon.
Yeah. It really did. It worked great.
Yeah.
So Bad Reputation is listed on the reissue as just Reputation. Is that?
Yeah, because Joan Jett had Bad Reputation. I didn't want people to confuse it.
That's fair.
We'll leave the record out so we can look at what the next song is.
That's fair as well. Let's see.
I have a question before we move on. So Evil Primeval is the first song on the album to use like a sampled sound. And from what I'm gathering, this is like the first record where y'all attempted that. Was that something that was like with them from the start, or was that like born in the studio?
Yeah, no, that's incorrect. We've been throwing those little things in, starting with cassettes before there were samplers and Pro Tools and shit. We were doing cassettes. It's on our earliest stuff. We always used samples from things, you know, movies, and or we'd recreate things, you know, or whatever. There were always little skits, kind of. That was part of why I liked hip hop records a lot, because they included those things, which most rock bands didn't. Once in a while, you'd hear it in a rock band's record. Somebody hip like Queen or whatever would put some bit in, you know. But for the most part, it was like, you know, like
we had samples on. I think it was Let's Fuck has a sample at the end of it on Blood, Guts, and Pussy, and
Blood Guts. Every song has a sample of some kind, and Thank Heaven has it on, you know, Fuck 'Em All, and like on Blood Guts, the first like 4 songs, you know, Backseat of My Car ends with a car crash, and then there's like, you know, so every Dwarves record has like girls panting and moaning, you know.
Still to this day.
To this day.
What I think Evil Primeval does have that other tracks don't have is there's this like reverse vocal effect. Was that used on anything else, or like how that
on that lead vocal?
Yeah, in the Evil Primeval, I think it's like the second time it comes around. It's got this like reverse reverb thing that comes in.
Wow. Yeah, maybe. I always liked that effect. I've used it a few times.
It's super cool. It's super
later records, you know, and where you give a taste of what's about to happen instead of repeating something that's already happened.
Is that the thing where you like, is like something where you record it one way and then flip the tape and then add the effect or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So Bad Reputation feels like a very self-reflective song about the band. I mean, you guys, you know, had that reputation. I think that's why.
What it is it's bragging. I mean, you know, we were all going all over the planet just raping and pillaging. Not literally, by the way, woke people, but I mean, it was
Figuratively speaking.
Yeah, figuratively speaking. But
It was
I mean,
rape in the mildest sense.
Because the thing that we couldn't stand, especially at the time, are all these heroin addicted shoegazing pussies, and they're all looking down on themselves. Oh, woe is me. And we're like, fuck you, screw heroin. We do cocaine and we'll bang anything that moves. And if you get in our way, we'll smash your fucking head in. No bands were doing that at the time. Everybody was sad and sweet. And it's like, fuck that.
Well, even the people who were doing it were singing as though they were sad and sweet.
Right.
There were a lot of people doing it, but they weren't
right.
proud of it. They didn't take great satisfaction in it the way.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's that song to me. I mean, I think I wrote in my first book. The Dwarves were always like a vat of electricity or something that was people liked, you know, and they always were fans, but were always a little too dangerous to get close to, and that's how we always felt. And with a song like Bad Reputation, I think that's just sort of the expression of that attitude that we had.
It's not a gang, it's a club, man.
Yeah.
And wasn't that like part of the reason why Sub Pop signed you in the first place, is because of this reputation? Like they were trying to kind of like, they had their Mudhoney and their like Nirvana and stuff, but they needed something like actually extreme.
They needed a real punk band. Is what
yeah, short of G.G. Allen, you guys were like, you know, the next
right,
the next wildest act to sign.
I think that's kind of the conclusion we came to at some point. Yeah, it was like, yeah, they just needed us to keep the rep going.
So, I mean, ironic that that's what they brought you guys on board for, but then you come up with this hoax about He Who being dead, and then they're like, whoa, you know, like, because I think...
Well, I guess we got to watch out for lawsuits, but I remember, and granted, I was drinking a lot, but I remember sitting in the offices of Sub Pop with Bruce and John, and talking about the hoax, all of us together, and saying what a great idea this would be, and that, you know, get some publicity out there. So, you know, when we were already had decided we were going to leave Sub Pop. We'd had enough. We were like, you give us no money, you send us on the road with a band that doesn't work. This is great. So we already wanted the hell off of there. And so we already let them know this is going to be our last record with them. And we had discussed the hoax with them. I remember doing it, sitting in their office. So, you know, them playing like the good guy, wearing the good guy badge afterwards was, you know, a little hypocritical, but hey, whatever. It made us look like more of the bad guys. And that was kind of what we were pushing. So it wasn't really surprising.
How did you feel about like that being kind of this disastrous, you know, rollout for the album? I mean, it sounds like this album wasn't exactly... like you guys kind of had a little bit of negativity surrounding the album because you knew you were going to leave Sub Pop. It wasn't necessarily like your favorite,
you know,
collection of songs.
Nothing slowed us down. We didn't. I mean, maybe Blag was thinking more about it because he's smarter than me. But me at the time, I was just like, "Fuck you. We're just going to keep rolling. We don't give a shit." You know. Allegedly, Kurt Loder announced the death of He Who Cannot Be Named on MTV or something, and if that's the case, fantastic. And I mentioned in my book how people were calling and we're giggling, listening to the voice messages on the telephone, the voice message thing, and just laughing because people are calling, saying, "Oh, we're so sorry to hear about He Who. Oh, this is so terrible." I was getting free drinks at the bar for months. How I didn't
you
let
always
loose.
Got free drinks at the bar just because you were unwilling to pay for them.
I got extra free drinks at the bar that time without guilt. And you know how I didn't, in my drunken state, not just have a slip of the tongue and say, "Oh, that's all just a hoax," but I didn't, and we just kept it going.
What I love, Vadge, is that you're an alcoholic, but without paying for drinks.
That's
another level of the game.
That's when you know you're actually you're born to lose right there, yeah. Baby. It's perfect. Yeah. Born to get those free drinks.
Vadge's new book is amazing because it's so rare that anyone will ever admit anything bad about themselves in their book, you know, but only Vadge has the audacity to come out and say, like, "Oh yeah, I know they just thought I was a loser and a fucking asshole and blah blah." You know what I mean? Like, it was great. It was like, it was so refreshing after reading so many of these kind of books, and it's always like, it always makes him like the downtrodden hero or whatever, you know what I mean? But Badge has no need to make himself the hero. If he doesn't feel heroic, he just states it.
I was even like texting back and forth with my ex-wife, Jay, in the book, and getting all these stories because a lot of the stuff I couldn't remember very well because I was terribly inebriated. And she said, well, if you want to change a story to make it look not so bad, that's okay. I said, no, this is not about an ego stroking, Vadge Moore fest. I mean, this is, I want to reveal what really happened. So, I want to reveal what it felt like and what I put myself through. And
it should come with a smell thing. Then it should come with some kind of smell.
Scratch and sniff.
Scratch and sniff.
Scratch and sniff.
You should have a scratch and sniff book.
Like when I throw up all that whiskey, vodka, and wine on the floor, we should try to get that smell somewhere right at that book. Scratch now and get the real life experience.
I think the chapter where you're talking about your interactions with Gigi Allen, that's the chapter you really don't need the scratch and sniff.
Oh God, no, that was horrible. Jesus. I mean, it was great, but it was horrible.
It's Gigi Allen in a nutshell.
So Lies is kind of your one chord rock jam, you know what I mean? Repeating the word lies over and over again. Then it goes to the kind of Ramonesy Saturday Night.
Was Saturday Night written like closer to the end of that era? Because I feel like Saturday Night is almost a precursor to like a sound that would develop more in the Dwarves' career after that moment.
Yes. But it's and kind of a Ramones thing, and it's like, years later the Transplants stole that beginning. Every night is just Saturday night. Every
Tim
day
Armstrong.
Day. Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I don't think it was him singing. It was the guy, Rob, I think.
Skinhead Rob,
who sings it. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting.
It's like a classic, like late 50s, early 60s pop song, really just like kind of sped up with some distortion. Like I could picture people like doing the twist to Saturday Night.
Yeah, the Watusi, the Frug.
I don't know. I always thought of it as like our heavy metal song.
Heavy metal?
Our own version of heavy metal.
Wow.
But it was a little too heavy. We're all too skinny and we couldn't lift it quite right. But
too heavy metal.
On this new record, I think the drums sound better on that song on Saturday Night. On the early versions or early masters of that, they didn't come out right. But this.
Oh, we're talking about Saturday Night now. I'm sorry, I thought we were still on Lies. Okay.
No, the song Saturday Night. Yeah, Lies is kind of heavy metal.
Yeah, Lies is a lot more sinister. I feel like even though it's that one chord basically throughout the whole thing, or that one note that it builds on, like it has this sinister aspect to it.
Yeah, that's He Who Cannot Be Named riff. Everything that's like a one chord thing just is sort of built off a riff of his,
That I was gonna say this album too, like definitely feels like there's a lot more riffage than like previous Dwarves albums. I feel like He Who kind of changed his style pretty noticeably on this one.
Yeah, I think that's right. I didn't write riff songs as much. Every once in a while I would write one like Lucky Tonight on Thank Heaven, but usually I was more like chord songs, Ramonesy kinds of things like Saturday Night. And so when there's a riff, a lot of times it's either He Who or Saltpeter.
Nice.
That guy is a riff genius right there, and a lyrical genius as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was one big thing with the Dwarves, was that really everybody could write words and lyrics. I mean, we get words and lyrics, could write words and music, so you had guys like that knew how to write for this band, with both Saltpeter and He Who.
So then moving on to the next two songs, I feel like we get this like 2-song stretch of just like pure punk rock songs, where you get the like under 1 minute songs with New Orleans and Action Man.
We brought back New Orleans for the newest set. We were doing it because we were playing in New Orleans, and we figured, what the fuck? It's a good hardcore song.
It's a great
song.
It's awesome.
Straightforward, good thing. And it's actually about, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's like there's a movie with Marlon Brando where he's got like a snakeskin jacket and he plays like a male hustler guy. And he's a fuck boy from New Orleans.
Is this young Brando or old Brando?
young Brando.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Is the lyric "fuck boy"?
Yeah. It goes, he was a fuck boy from New Orleans.
Okay, so this is fantastic because I don't know if you're aware of this, Blag, if you wrote this lyric or not, but according to the internet, the term "fuckboy" originated with the rapper Cameron in 2004. So this needs to be corrected because I think you came up with that.
I had fuck boy from New Orleans 10 years before that.
And Blag, what are the rest of the lyrics to that? Because I still can't figure it out.
I mean, I'd have to have it in front of me, but it's something like he was a fuck boy from New Orleans. They paid him high to keep his motor clean. Come on for a ride. Come on outside. You know, I don't do this every night.
That's it.
Boy from New Orleans. And then something, the Marines.
Right.
I'd have to hear it again, but it's something about the Marines.
This lyric website says butt boy, not fuck boy.
No, it's fuck boy.
It changes the meaning entirely.
The lyric sites are awful at transcribing Dwarves lyrics. I've noticed this in the past. Almost every single Dwarves lyric is wrong. Yeah. Ironically, on the
even
website
the ones
called
where
Genius,
they had lyric sheets.
Yeah,
even
like
that had lyric sheets.
Young and Good Looking. Didn't that have a lyric sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah. People still got it wrong.
So yeah, fuck boy from New Orleans, and then what comes after that?
Action Man.
So that just sort of continues the Dwarves thing of like singing about superheroes, like creating superheroes, like Astro Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Astro Boy already exists, and so does Action Man. Action Man is like an action figure in England that they like G.I. Joe would be here. But we always would make up these, and like the next one, Kane Novocaine, like I'm Kane Novocaine. It'd be like these kind of weird superhero songs, like
I think it's because we considered ourselves sort of like superheroes, or sort of like a combination of film noir villains and superheroes all at the same time.
Yeah. So things like I am the Dominator, it's like you come up with these one word things where I'm relentless, which is on another record, but it's like, yeah, that's what Action Man, and it has one of those, like in the Dwarves, you either have like straightforward, like 1 2 1 2 1 2 kind of beats, or you have things like this where it's like very
Wagnerian.
Yeah, which is like a song like Unrepentant or something from later ones, like nah, I'm unrepentant, nah, I'm unrepentant. It's like you just throw in one little hiccup and it makes for a different kind of riff and a different kind of dwarf song.
Yeah, this little hiccups. I mean, that's the other gene. I mean, people don't think about this because it's the Dwarves, but the genius of them, Blag and He Who and Saltpeter arranging these songs, they just throw in these, like when I was recording with them the first time, they'd throw in these little things that you wouldn't think even would matter. I mean, and it ends up making a huge difference. It alters the feel of the song and makes the song 100% better. And even throwing in, like we were talking before, samples. When I first recorded the full record, Blood, Guts, and Pussy with them, little samples they'd throw in, even if you couldn't really hear it unless you listened real close, it still made an audio difference. It added to the song, even if you're not even aware that it's there. So little things like hiccups and all that shit just adds to what Blag and Saltpeter were doing on these records.
Nobody taught us how to do samples or record things. We had no idea how to record anything. I mean, it wasn't until my late 20s when I got in with Eric Valentine that anyone took the time to show me anything in a studio or where I felt like I had any time. We would make these records. I mean, you'd have to do like 7 vocals in a day kind of bullshit, or just whatever it was,
And didn't we record, like, thank heaven we recorded in like 6 days or something, right?
Yeah, that was one of the quickest ones.
Yeah. I know Blood Guts was probably quicker than that. That was like 2 days.
Well, Blood Guts, there was a series of overdubs in San Francisco that gave me some time to breathe and listen to it and do shit. But thank heaven we just had to power right through.
Right.
In Wisconsin, some shit. But yeah, this one, we had a little had enough time, but we just didn't know what we were doing. And the players were kind of transitional here, except for me and Vadge. The rest of the players on there were kind of not the standard Dwarves guys. So what? So then it goes to Kane Novocaine. Yeah, another
So
like
then,
superhero.
actually, next is Smack City, which ties in perfectly because we're talking about samples. This one starts off with that sample, Dorkville, US. Where is that from? Something or
Kim Foley.
Kim Fowley. He had a record called oh God, it came out on Moxie in 1980. It was it had songs on it like "We Wear Our Shades" and shit like that. I can't remember the title of the album, but
Was it The King of Fuck? Didn't you have something come out called The King of Fuck or something like that?
no, this wasn't that. It was just like kind of a yeah. He had a couple. I don't know. It was a Kim Fowley record around 1980, and yeah, they had that Dog High School, Dorkville, USA. Yeah. And then at the end, it goes to Louis, so you know that it's supposed to be Seattle, Smack City, Louis.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of the dwarves repeatedly biting the hand that feeds them, although we weren't being fed very well. So we were grumpy animals.
Right, yeah. Kind of shitting on Seattle that had given us our start. Because before we went up to Seattle, nobody noticed us at all. It was only when people started to, because we were on Sub Pop, people thought we were from Seattle, but we weren't,
Well, I mean, we were noticed enough to get written up in the Village Voice when we went all the way out there for one or two shows.
That was what brought us to the attention of Seattle, because there was a big thing about the Seattle scene in that same issue of the Village Voice. And there was a picture of me bleeding after jumping into a table at CBGB's.
Like, yeah, the one and only time. We were never asked back to CBGB's. I don't know why.
Yeah. We were banned till the end, but we outlasted CBGB's.
Hell yeah.
They're gone. We're still here.
R.I.P. CBGB's.
Proves we're more important.
Where is that photo? Is that on the internet?
Yeah, it should be. The caption said "Bleeding Jesus."
Bleeding Jesus. I tried looking for it because it was mentioned in Vadge's book. I couldn't find it. But I'll try Bleeding Jesus.
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it's classic too, because I know now we're talking about this, but that's how it got the attention of Seattle. So I guess this is relevant. But Blag had taken a bunch of LSD, which he did a lot back then before going on stage. I don't know how the fuck he did that.
Yeah.
And I'll just never forget him. There was like behind the stage at CBGB's, there's this long hallway that goes to those horrible bathrooms. And he wasn't anywhere in front. And we tried to warn the people, get these chairs and tables out of the way. And they're like, no, we're not going to move the chairs and tables. Where are people going to sit? And I'm like, they're not. And as soon as we start, I can't even remember what song, I'd probably fuck up and get high. Blag comes flying from behind the kit down that hallway, over my drum riser, as much as it was, and into the crowd, landing on the tables, and just fucked up his head on one of those nasty
they just
cocktail
stopped
tables.
it. Yeah, they just stopped the fucking
I think we
show.
got through a few songs, but not until you were like mauling people with the microphone in your mouth and blood pouring down.
Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah.
Pretty punk rock right there. So okay, so Smack City, I think we get the gist of that, and I think it's a perfect placement for that song on the final Sub Pop record. And then we got Kane Novocaine, which we've talked a little bit about.
Another kind of superhero thing, Kane Novocaine, the riff. I think I wrote that one.
I was gonna say these superhero-y songs, like they definitely the structure, I guess, of the song feels like a theme song a little bit, like when they go into these superhero things. Like I was gonna say about Action Man as well. Like I can't help but envision this like fucked up commercial for the action figure.
Right.
Where, like,
exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what they are. Yeah. Action Man got thrills if you want it. Action Man at a terrible pace. Action Man from outer space.
Totally. Like I'm just picturing like these like those old TV commercials where the kids are like playing with the action figure and putting it in like scenarios, but like this guy's just like fucking like you're jamming him into like a female action woman, I guess. And, like,
well, we felt like superheroes, first of all, because we were wearing those tight black pants, those rock guy jeans. So which, everybody had given up wearing in the 80s, because I guess that was a 80s metal fashion. but we wore them because, you know, it made us feel like superheroes. And of course, then we write songs about horribly degenerate superheroes, and that's exactly
And
what we were.
gloves, the rock guy gloves were another aspect of the superhero.
Which, are you done wearing those now? Because you gave your gloves to Elliot Graceland.
Well, no, that was just one pair because was
Okay.
a fanboy.
How many pairs of those gloves do you have?
I got
He's got,
multiple pairs, man. I've worn hundreds now,
it's like
dozens.
it's like Batman, but it's the Blag Cave instead of the Bat Cave, and he's got a special room somewhere that just has about 20 dozen of those gloves.
They're just lining the cave walls.
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
thousands of gloves.
Oh yeah.
So, Kane, Novocaine, and what I can't remember what comes in. Is it Underworld?
Underworld, yes. Underworld. That's a pretty big song. Like I feel like that's one of those ones, like a fan favorite, right?
Yes,
like
we used to open shows with that, and Underworld is just based on a real muscular riff and a great kind of bass riff thing, which is cool when it happens in the Dwarves because it's a very guitar heavy kind of band. I think that might have been Saltpeter that came up with that.
It's constantly.
We did that version in Madison, Wisconsin, like Blag had mentioned before, and then was later released on a little CD EP. But with Saltpeter doing the bass, and I think Saltpeter for that track was using a fretless bass, and just the monstrous ballsy sound of the fucking thing because you start off with that bass riff.
Yeah,
it just sounded absolutely phenomenal, which was hard to repeat.
I preferred his playing to the one that wound up on the record, so I like to get that version out there. But I think Sugarfix ultimately holds up. It's a cool record. But if you would have asked me about any other record, I probably would have liked it more. And it ends with "Wish That I Was Dead," which, it goes like and it comes in on this really bad chord that's really out of tune. That was like deliberately done that way to make it sound like death. But but now when I hear it, it just sounds wrong. And I'm just like, fuck. This is weird, but I had a concept, but
it sounds like the guy that's singing is dying. It's perfect.
Yeah, and "Wish That I Was Dead" is one of my favorites lyrically, and it's very sort of country inflected. Sounds like an old kind of retro jam, and the lyrics, "To be or not, I just don't care. Eternal questions everywhere." It's very kind of fake, lofty, big, but it's just death. The Dwarves' obsession with death,
Very, very existential.
One thing I noticed about that song too is like, we're talking a little bit about Saturday Night and how that kind of has this old timey, like late 50s, early 60s kind of like vibe. This "I Wish I Was Dead" is dedicated to Del Shannon.
Yeah, he had just committed suicide at that time, and Del Shannon's one of my all-time favorite artists. He's thought of as a one-hit wonder because of "Runaway," which would be enough because "Runaway" is one of the greatest songs of all time, but he's got like another 10 great songs. And he was the first guy to pick up on the Beatles. He covered "From Me to You." He did a little tour with them with them opening for him in England. He was just a really hip, smart guy that had a bunch of great songs. "Stranger in Town" is one of my favorites by him. And he's a super underrated,
Now, we had a song called "Runaway," but was that during the Sugarfix era and we never recorded it? When was that?
Yeah, "Runaway" was a song that we had, and then years later, he who wrote the "Runaway" that wound up on "Must Die," which I always thought was better. But yeah, there was another song called "Runaway" that I had written, and it sort of disappeared. I don't know. I never liked it that much, I guess.
I thought it was good, but it was from the Sugarfix era, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Thought so.
Or the kind of Venus with Arms Blag era.
Right. Somewhere in between. I know it's hard to remember all this shit. First of all, all the time that's gone by, and second of all the booze and cocaine I was imbibing. So,
Yeah,
hard to remember.
it is. It's hard to remember with a penis shoved in your ear.
Wait, what? So a Sugarfix, as a whole, like sounds like there's mixed emotions towards that record. when you look back at that record, I mean, like, time has definitely changed the narrative of it, I think. When you look back at it now, you feel like a little more fondly about it. Do you, like,
Yeah.
There's songs on
Yeah.
there that are obviously like songs that have lasted the span of your career. You know, anybody out there, Underworld, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't any bad Dwarves records. Even the ones we made 17 and 18, you know, they all have a certain charm to them, depending, you know, it's just it was basically like after Sugarfix, when we hit Young and Good Looking, that I've never made another record that I didn't like from that point on. I don't know how other people feel about them. There were ones that I liked a lot, like Must Die, that people didn't seem to pick up on as much as I thought. But everybody's picking up on this new one, this concept album, because it's like kind of, it's kind of got everything that a Dwarves fan would want, you know.
Nick Oliveri screaming like a crazy wife-beating son of a bitch, and it's all great poppy songs too. Did Saltpeter write any of the songs for
Yeah,
concept
he
album?
wrote Parasite.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, so that's
Who
a real
wrote
popular one.
Roxette?
I wrote Roxette.
That's a great song.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely have divided love and hate of this record. I mean, not now. I mean, through all the last few years, you know, to me, it was like the worst Dwarves record I ever played on. But I remember I re-listened to it about a year ago. Maybe I was just on YouTube and like, let's listen to it. And I'm like, you know what? This record, it's actually great. I mean, it really, like every Dwarves record, we always made them. I don't know. I'm sure they still do. But when I was in the band, we make them so that you sort of enter into this world, and then you sort of get tossed around, and you meet degenerate superheroes and hookers high in cocaine, and then you're sort of beaten up and then kicked out the other end. And Sugarfix does that. I mean, it is a whole piece, and I re-listened to it again last night, and it really is a great record. I mean, I actually take back everything I thought about it, because it does hold up. It's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, which just goes to prove Sub Pop knows nothing. Fuck them.
But we already knew that.
I think that it's a fantastic album. Like I said at the beginning, like it's got a lot of versatility to it. There's a lot of variation amongst the tracks, but then a lot of cohesiveness as well. And I think that there's, you know, like songs like Underworld where you get this, like every instrument, every player has their moment. Like the bass, you know, comes through in these moments where you're like, damn, that's a sick bass riff. But even in like Underworld, like the drums, like really, like that song is kind of like a constantly morphing song as well. So I really like. I got to tip my cap to you guys, even though you didn't enjoy it at the time. There's some really like sort of next level shit on there. You know?
Yeah, Vadge had a way when he was playing drums of kind of pushing it when it got to the solo part. He would just push it a little more and kind of push you through that last verse, you know, or that last chorus, and just kind of, you know, it just had that Dwarves quality that.
I remember that's one thing Saltpeter taught me when I first joined the band. We were living in this little flat in on Fell Street in San Francisco, and we had this basement in the that we used as our rehearsal studio. And when I first joined, you know, I was playing like I'd played with my other bands, which just wasn't cutting it for the Dwarves. And Saltpeter just said, you have to attack the one, like always be just a little ahead of each beat. What you're doing is like you got the band behind you and you're dragging us forward, but you've got to push us, drag us, do what you can, always attack the one, never lay back in the cut, always attack, which ended up, of course, becoming pretty much what we all did on stage anyway. But in terms of the music, yeah, and off stage. But in terms of the music, that I remember Saltpeter teaching me that, and once I kind of got the feel of it, then you know, it worked pretty good. Any of the Dwarves records, at least that I played on, you know, you can feel that. You can feel it in Blood Guts, Thank Heaven, Sugarfix. Yeah, you just always attack the one, move it a little farther forward, a little quicker.
Totally. You can definitely hear that. And actually curious to hear your thoughts, Vadge, on how the drums sounded after your departure from the Dwarves.
Oh, they had some great drummers. I know Josh Freese was in there for a while. Did he record, or was he doing just live stuff, Blag?
Oh, he did just recording.
Oh, he just did recording, so he didn't do any live. I mean, Josh Freese, I mean, obviously he's now at the Foo Fighters. He's played with Devo. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. The drums sound great on every record since I've left. I mean, even the guy on Dwarves Must Die, I mean, he was doing an awesome job.
Rex
So,
Tom.
yeah, that's it. That was his name.
Dwarves Must Die it has a lot of Tom on it, but it also has Gnarly Watts, you know, who came from XL, who was more of a speed metal player. And then it had Josh Freese. That's the first one he was on Must Die.
Right.
And so he plays on a couple of those. And yeah, that one had like multiple drummers.
It took multiple drummers to keep up with what Vadge Moore, the precedent that he set.
That's right.
Yeah. I think you did set a precedent. I think that, like, you know,
drink too much and not play very well.
Vadge is a legend.
If that's what it is.
My favorite dwarf to this day.
Oh.
But, you know, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this record. I'm going to go now and abuse substances and eat food.
There you go. I'm gonna
Godspeed.
I'm going to go drink a lot of caffeine and meditate.
All right. Well,
two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Punk rock.
All right. Thanks a bunch, guys. This has been very fascinating, and I'm glad that we had an opportunity to talk about an album that maybe is forgotten by some people, maybe being rediscovered by some people, maybe just being discovered by some people.
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning, but I am an old man.
No worries. We
No
appreciate y'all giving us your time.
You got it, buddy. Take it easy.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
Right,
you guys.
rock and roll, guys.